Welcome into an all-new edition of MMA Untold. My name is Taylor Gabriels. In front of me, returning from his trip at Rock on the Range, the charter member of the Colby Covington fan club, Mr. Zach Scrappy Gratton. And
no comments.
Down on the end, the happiest man in the room, the Godfather, Tim Thomas. And why is he happy, Zach? It's because we are finally doing the episode that Tim has been waiting to do since episode 6 of this podcast, since he confused Aaron Pico's introduction with CM Punk's introduction. But now, Tim, the floor is yours, man.
And that was like my debut, too. That was a really rough start.
Yep.
But
came out of the batter's box real strong there.
So I'm pretty sure everyone, all the MMA fans are going to be threatening to turn this off already. They see CM Punk and they all scatter. But I guess all joking aside, the reason we want to do this is we just want people to know why you MMA fans, all the WWE fans, all the wrestling fans know why they care about CM Punk, why they gravitate to him. But to the MMA fans, why should you care? You know, why is this guy such a big deal? And, you know, because if you see, oh, he's 38 years old, he's got no background in true athletics. You know, wrestling is a sports entertainment. Why should you care? Well, he's a polarizing guy, and we're going to tell you why. His story is absolutely crazy. It's just as crazy as any of the other ones we've gone through, quite frankly.
Absolutely is. So CM Punk's story starts in Chicago, Illinois, our hometown. There's a homegrown boy right here. And it starts on October 26, 1978. Philip Jack Brooks was born, one of 5 children, and Brooks's father works as an engineer. His mother's a stay-at-home mom, takes care of the house and the kids, but despite the appearances on the surface, life at home was not great for Phil. His father was an alcoholic, and early on, Punk's going to see a lot of that alcoholism come out in a bad way in his father, and he's going to vow to never touch alcohol or drugs in his entire life. And this is really going to become a mentality that's going to carry over and become his persona as a wrestler.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Zach, but he literally tells stories of, you know, his dad, was he picking him up from school or just
picked him up from school and he's driving him home,
and he's throwing up out the window, which is absolutely horrifying. And you know, he's a little kid, so he's worried it's the worst. You know, he's literally saying, "I hope it's not cancer." And he has an awesome quote that as people that like to drink here or there, you know, he says, you know, that doesn't look fun. And it does make you think about those moments when you're throwing up and you're like, why do I do this?
It's definitely not fun. That's for sure. But, you know, it's also one of those things too, is, you know, we always talk about fighters having inspiration to be great and, you know, getting like somebody who motivate them. Well, guess what? This negativity can be motivation as well.
Sure.
So like this is where he starts that straight edge lifestyle. And for those of you who don't really know, the straight edge is like there's no drugs, alcohol, smoking, and sometimes even sex. So we'll learn later on what path he takes. But yeah, this is where that kind of starts for him, and it creates, you know, a character that, you know, everybody seemed to have loved.
So CM Punk has, when he gets to his wrestling career, he's got hand wraps on his hands, and he draws these X's.
What are those X's?
Do you know what that is?
I have no.
So,
this is a learning podcast for me, so I'm ready. I'm all ears. Let's go. What are those X's?
Tim, you're going to be able to answer everything else, so I'm going to take this one.
Go for it.
So those X's represent when you would go to a nightclub or to a concert or whatever, they would draw an X on your hand if you were under 21 and couldn't drink. So he draws those X's, and that was kind of the punk scene at the time. They were drawing X's on themselves to signify that they weren't drinking, whether they were 21 or not. They were drawing.
Didn't matter. They didn't care.
Yep.
They just didn't want to.
So
even
that
deal
is
with the offer.
that's a mark that represents his, you know, drug-free, alcohol-free lifestyle.
There you go.
So
I'll tell you who won't have those marks on his hands at UFC 225. This guy right
You?
here. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, can I just say, it's got to be horrifying watching your dad pick you up from school and to be throwing up out the window of the car as he's driving you home. But as a high schooler, my first hour class was a waiver period, what they call a waiver. So we got to take it off. So I got to go to school late. Well, I had a couple of buddies that we would carpool to school, and I have one unnamed friend that used to like to indulge in drugs and alcohol. And one morning, I remember him drinking a little too much on the way to high school and getting right in front of the school and opening the door and vomiting out the the car door as he was pulling up to the high school
Great
to start his day.
Sweet.
Legendary stuff.
And maybe that's why I don't drink so much. these days. CM Punk, we got a lot in common,
for
buddy.
life.
By the way, also, CM Punk grew up in Lockport and went to Lockport Township High School. Lockport's just a stone's throw away from where we live. So it's just south of us. Yeah.
You got a cannon over there, sir, that I don't know about?
I do have a cannon. I can throw for miles, buddy. So keep it in check in this podcast. Well, anyway, Brooks would eventually have a falling out with his parents, both of them. And down the road, he's really going to have a falling out with his mom and one of his siblings. But he moves in with his best friend at the time, Ches, and her family, who basically adopt Punk as their own. So Punk is fully invested in this straight edge punk rock lifestyle, and he's kind of struggling to fit in at school. He's really into comic books, and he's really into pro wrestling. And this is kind of where he's going to start to gravitate towards putting his time and energy into becoming a professional wrestler. And he traces this love of pro wrestling back to the Roddy Piper Snuka coconut segment on WWF TV. And Zach, did you watch this? Did I send you the clip to watch this?
I don't think so.
No.
No, but see,
This is such a brilliant segment. I mean, maybe Tim can speak to it too, but go ahead.
what I see this in the notes and I'm like, WWF for me is Attitude Era. Like Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, DX, like that is for me, but like CM Punk wasn't even a thought process. Like I don't even know who this guy was. And I caught the end of wrestling when he was popular was about when like I kind of started fading out. But yeah, just to think that there's someone brewing underneath all of that ready to come up is just ridiculous.
So first of all, just real quick before we get too far away from it, you kind of talked in there briefly about his struggles to fit in. And I don't know if you saw, I know we're going to talk about his tattoos or whatever, but have you seen the Space Boy tattoo? He has a tattoo on his wrist and it says Space Boy, and it's literally because he feels like he's from another planet because he can never really fit in with everybody. So
That's perfect.
He always tries, even to this day, in MMA, and he just never can fit in.
Knowing that though, and knowing his story, doesn't that seem like it's a perfect tattoo for him?
Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely apropos, and we're going to get to tattoos here in just a second, but that'll carry over into the untold stuff. That's really going to kind of be a representation of everything. The marks on the hand, the tattoos, his attitude, his outlook. It's going to be a thread that's going to run through this entire episode.
But to your point about the Piper thing and the coconut segment, he's really able to relate a lot to Piper. To this day, when people try to explain to newer fans who was CM Punk, who is CM Punk, because it's been 4 years now he's been out of the business, who is he the most comparable to? They say he is like a modern Roddy Piper. He's not in the not the greatest physique, not like out of a comic book like half these guys, but again, pisses everybody off. Does it all with his mouth basically, and he's that guy people are willing to pay to see lose, because he does his best work as a bad guy. And
Roddy Piper also, this was a time in wrestling, WWF, WCW. This was a time in wrestling where guys weren't doing what Roddy Piper did. He was basically had a little talk show of his own that he was kind of conducting. And he was having wrestlers on that he had feuds with. And then in this particular one, he's making fun of someone's nationality and their race. And he's taking bananas and taunting him with it. And then he takes a coconut and literally cracks him over the head, Zach, with a real coconut. Thought he killed the guy. Like, I mean, you know how hard coconuts are. Cracks him over the head. This is not a chair. This is not,
So you guys know that was Jimmy Snuka. You guys went a little Jimmy Snuka Untold? You guys may not know this because I know you're not big wrestling fans. You know Jimmy Snuka Untold is that he most likely killed his girlfriend, right? You guys know that?
Whoa, no.
Shit.
Yeah.
No.
True story. So it was a well-known thing for like 20 years that he got away with it. And in the very end, like right before he passed away, they were actually starting to finally prosecute him for it. They had kind of like reopened the case, and it's pretty clear. But the only reason they didn't go forward is they decided he wasn't fit to stand trial mentally because he was at the end.
Because he got hit on the head with a coconut.
Yes, exactly.
Is that post coconut?
Yeah. So there's your Jimmy Snuka Untold.
Jeez. Well,
Well,
who can blame the guy?
I just like the fact that he's a huge fan of like some of my favorites. I hear you say British Bulldogs, and I'm like, yo, is he in the dog dogs? Like, what's going on here? But the British Bulldog,
yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's the all-time great. Of course,
Shawn Michaels, Tim's favorite.
Mike, I wouldn't say favorite. I'm not. No,
I thought Shawn Michaels was always your favorite.
HBK?
I was always Razor Ramon.
Yeah,
You
I
were
was
Shawn
I was
Michaels.
a Triple H guy, but that's a whole other story.
God.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be doing this podcast
I'm
right
out,
now.
yep.
CM Punk does not want you
and
telling
you
the
can't
story.
forget Macho. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it is, that's one of those things. And he actually pays tribute to him wearing with the high stockings.
Yeah, the WrestleMania 3.
Yep.
Yeah, he pays tribute to Macho Man after he passes, which is really cool. CM Punk has a very deep-seated, history with wrestling. He really was a fan from the time he was a kid and studies the history of wrestling and pays homage to its, greats. So from here, Punk's independence and separation from the crowd is going to show, and in particular in his tattoos, which we talked about a second ago. Punk's going to be known for his tattoos to this day, and we could spend a ton of time here discussing the psychology, philosophy, and the meaning behind his tattoos. But for now, we're just going to focus on the most iconic of Punk's tattoos, the one that represents Punk's attitude and life philosophy best, that giant Pepsi logo on his shoulder.
So, man,
what's the deal with that?
Listen, I love the meaning, right? The meaning is like, people get, like, you get all types of stuff you like tattooed on you, right? Whether it's a sports team, whether it's people get beer tattoos on their, like, what the hell? He was like, well, I really like Pepsi, so I'm going to get the Pepsi logo. But, sir, can you please get another drink? Pepsi's not that great. To me.
So
Well, there's more to that story, though. So that's the story he kind of tells to people generally, but then there's a more specific backstory to that. He's 7th or 8th grade. Mm-hmm. He's in detention, and he's reading Maximum Rock and Roll magazine, and he sees Brian Baker of Minor Threat, and Brian Baker's got a Coca-Cola tattoo.
Yep.
And by the way, we kind of failed to mention earlier on that Minor Threat is really that first band that kind of gets CM Punk into the whole straight edge. That kind of gives him the name straight edge. He knew that he didn't want to do drugs and alcohol, but it wasn't until he's reading about this punk band and they have a name for it. We're straight edge. And he goes, oh, I can identify with those guys. I can relate to those guys. I'm going to be straight edge. So he's reading Maximum Rock and Roll and he sees Brian Baker's Coca-Cola tattoo and he reads that Baker got it because he liked Coke. And CM Punk says, well, I don't like Coke, but I do like Pepsi, so I'll get a Pepsi tattoo.
I mean,
and that pretty much sums
perfect.
it up.
If you have, you can have, no matter how it looks or how it tastes, if you have a good story to
it makes it
good.
work. So that's why my eventual chicken select strips tattoo will work out, because I just love chicken strips. Or even though I think those are discontinued.
I thought you were going to get a 20-piece
damn
nugget
it.
tattoo on your
I
shoulder.
thought about that while you were saying the Coke thing. I was like, people would get nugs, but ultimately chicken select strips are where my heart's at, and I can never
You've
get them
grown
back.
up.
I think
Well,
they're
really
I know,
matured.
I really come a
You've
long
really
way.
matured.
Yeah.
As some of you maybe hardcore CM Punk fans know that he is like huge in the comics and G.I. Joe in particular, and he has the Cobra symbol tattooed on him. Some other tattoos he has, he has the 4 aces.
Doesn't he have his sister's, his younger sister's jersey number on
that's
him,
cool.
tattooed on him? I mean, the guy he's got deep dish pizza because he loves
'Cause
deep
he
loves
dish
deep
pizza
dish.
from Chicago.
Well, and he pays like, to his longtime friend and trainer, Ace Steel. He has the 4 aces. The first one's for him. Even his like, it gets down to like what he likes. It goes down to his favorite number. He's got 13 tattooed on him. Drug free on his knuckles. It just keeps going and going. And he's who cares? They might not be the best put together tattoos, but it's his art. He doesn't give a damn.
The best part is how much down the road he has to answer for them when he gets to WWE, and it's like they couldn't be better messages or more straightforward. There's nothing bad or lewd or explicit about him, but he still has to answer for all of it. Meanwhile, half the people have their usual shitty tribal tattoos or explicit shit.
I personally think his tattoos look good. I just like tattoos. So like people give him shit all the time, like, oh, they're weirdly placed, they don't really mesh together. I said, it's all coming from the same message. What's not to like about it?
Well, what's awesome about it, the tattoos, is what they represent ultimately as a whole. So people ask him the meaning behind each one, and he could go on, but really what they represent is, he says, if I like it, why wouldn't I want it to be a part of me forever? People are always telling him, aren't you going to regret having a pizza slice tattooed on you? He's like, no, I love pizza. I always will love pizza. So why wouldn't I want that on my,
Phenomenal logic.
Question of the podcast. What type of deep dish pizza do you think it is? Where is it from?
Giordano's.
Yeah,
100%.
of course, Giordano's.
Think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or lose, but
Okay. At least that's an option.
Just-
It
It's
looks like
Giordano's.
Giordano's. Yeah.
clearly.
Okay. That'd be a question to ask him.
Yeah, that'd be something I bet no tattoo guy has asked him. Well, anyway, Punk would carry this attitude that he has with his tattoos, and he's going to carry that out into the world, and he's going to make his first attempts at becoming a wrestler. And that journey begins with several friends and his brother Mike in a backyard wrestling organization named the Lunatic Wrestling Federation. And it's here where Brooks would get the moniker CM Punk.
And CM, I guess when he's younger, chick magnet. If that
You're not okay with this?
No, I am okay with it. Everything, like, it just continues to be.
Phenomenal?
You ask him about his tattoo. It's like a basic answer, but it's like cool. Like chick mag CM. Like, how has anyone thought of that? Like, what the hell?
Yep.
Well, there's more to the story than that. He at the time there was a CM Venom, and he substitutes in a tag team match, and then he gets CM Punk. So they were the Chick Magnets was the tag group.
That would
was the Chick
also stay
Magnets.
with him throughout his career, I think.
And then so he keeps CM and goes with CM Punk because everyone calls him a punk. So he goes with CM Punk.
CM Punk is probably the worst best name of all time.
Absolutely.
Like, it's so
100%.
shitty, but then once it's stuck, it's actually amazing in the end. Especially now that he's the icon that he is. You're like, wait, it actually is just Chick Mag. Yep, it sure is just Chick Magnet.
And he gives in interviews, he talks about all the other meanings it has, but those have all been added on, like Chicago made and all these other things. They're not really what it stands for. The origin of it is from his backyard wrestling days, despite what you may read in other interviews about that. It's Chick Magnet.
Phenomenal.
And it's very fitting, as Zach has read much about later on when he gets to WWE.
All of your research was about his endeavors.
That's
with the
all
women.
he did.
Yeah,
He's like, I got 4 pages of notes, guys, and it's all about him and the divas in the WWE.
perfect.
I'm like, well, okay. Way to contribute, sir. So this is about the time that Punk is going to decide to get formal training, and we kind of skipped over something here. I alluded to the fact that he was going to have a falling out with one of his siblings. So Mike, his brother, stole a bunch of money. They were kind of starting, these backyard shows were starting to grow. They were getting hundreds of people staying up, making signs and making their clothing, doing all this stuff. Just from the beginning, putting in the hard work.
And I can interject there. So again, this is around here, we know people that were around for those shows, and this isn't really, we're not here to trash anybody, but we have friends that have issues with CM Punk stemming from that exact era. He took that shit, that LWF, right?
Yes.
LWF very seriously. And we had some friends that were basically trolls back then, and he got very fucking offended by them. So even back then he was super into it. And so when they start getting 500, 1,000 people, he really wanted to take it to the next level. And they were. I mean, to think back on that, first of all, that was the era of backyard wrestling. Everybody was trying to backyard wrestle.
They made a video game, Backyard Wrestling.
But he went and was doing it in front of 1,000 people, having to rent out warehouses and really turning it into a business, which is pretty crazy.
So he does make it a business, and he says they were having to get insurance and permits and all this other stuff. And so there's a lot of money involved, and his brother Mike takes it and kind of goes and steals it, and that was it.
Imagine being the insurance company when they walk in with that crew, CM Punk looking like that, just like, hey, we're doing a backyard. What's it called? What's the insured company? Lunatic Wrestling.
Lunatic Wrestling. Yeah.
No, thanks. That's a hard pass on insuring that. Hard pass.
So Punk cuts off Mike at this point. and hasn't really spoken to him since, which sounds harsh, and you can, have your own judgment on that. Some people say if their brother stole from them, they never talk to him again. I did hear a podcast with Mike Brooks talking about that incident, and he admits that he did steal money. So it's not fabricated by CM Punk at all. It really did happen. He's owned up to it.
And it depends, like, the context too. Like, here you are, CM Punk he's trying to make a way for himself, and all his brother is doing is just taking that opportunity away from him. Mm-hmm. So at what point do you drop the dead weight, essentially, and just try and keep moving on? So I see why he did it, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. I would think maybe over time it would kind of come back, but, it didn't. So he's allowed to do that.
Yeah, and you got to put yourself in Punk's shoes here. I mean, he's out on his own. He moved away from his family. He's living with a friend, so money is insanely hard to come by. He's working his ass off, taking this super seriously to scrounge together some money, and your brother steals the money. It's like, fuck, man. So,
that's a tough break. But they were growing. Their audience was growing. As you said, it grew to almost 1,000. And he decides, okay, maybe we need some, if we can garner this much attention and not really know what we're doing, what happens if we go and get actual formal training?
Well, I love this. I love this because most people in situations like this are like, I don't need the fucking training. And I love that Punk is like, what if I had the training? Like, what if we were this good now? What if we have it?
It's basically like somebody dropping out of high school, starting a business, becoming successful, and then deciding, I'm going to go back to school and get formally trained in business.
This is like when Stringer Bell goes to business school and stuff, takes the classes.
Yes! You knew I was referencing The Wire.
Just
Thank you, sir.
I really have to get on this Wire show because you guys have referenced it now twice.
So Punk goes to get this formal training at a wrestling school by the name of Steel Domain. And that's a training program based out of Minnesota. But they had a thing in, I think, Villa Park maybe was where their location was in Illinois. But anyway, Punk goes there to train, and it's here where he's going to kind of learn the ins and outs of the sport and be put to the test for the first time physically. He's really going to get put through the ringer here. And he's also going to meet his future best friend and kayfabe rival, Colt Cabana.
I like hearing you say kayfabe. Nice
Thank you,
work.
sir. Yeah, I don't know if I spelled that right in the notes, but felt good about that.
Colt Cabana is, for some reason, that name sounds so familiar. Is he in anything? Am I missing something, or is it just?
He's a very famous podcast now in like the wrestling circles, but
The Art of Wrestling.
Yeah. He was one of like the original wrestling.
Maybe I heard it through you
but-
guys.
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, he's very, as we'll see here, he's very closely tied to Punk. So if you've run into Punk's name at all, you've known Colt Cabana.
So, and I think Punk was like the 4th or 5th student, and maybe the 2nd to graduate from that program under Ace Steel and those guys. So this is pretty early on. Ace Steel actually describes Punk as having lead in his ass. Okay, and the reason that is important, so he says Colt Cabana had, a background in football, so he's athletic. He's learning the stuff.
Okay over there?
It just reminds me of my fucking high school basketball career at playing at Kiesler's house. I also had lead in my ass at the 3-point line. I could not
So
move.
you feel Punk's pain?
I just related to that immensely, yes. Tim, get your ass down low. You're a big body. Get the rebound. Shoot a 3.
So anyway, so the reason that is important is because we're going to see that carry over to MMA. We're going to see a lot of people critique him for not being naturally athletic, and Punk's going to push right on through that in wrestling, and we'll see if he can do that in MMA. But right from the get-go, you have him drawing this huge crowd, so he's insanely popular, but he's got no athletic ability to speak of, according to his coach.
Right.
But he's going to take this and make something of it regardless.
Right. Well, he's just, again, taking that natural ability to rile up or relate to a crowd, and now he's going to back it up with as much as he can with the athleticism that he has.
And, I was watching, you sent me a video, and, I've seen a bunch of videos, and I can see the charisma on the mic. He's just a shit-talking animal, which generally you would think I don't like, but that type of stuff, I do. But but he performs well in the ring too. Like it was almost like a natural, even though he didn't have that athletic ability. To me, watching the early stuff, even though it's like not like well produced, it seemed pretty good for someone who doesn't have that ability.
I will say, and I'm no aficionado of wrestling by any stretch, but I will say if you do watch some of that early stuff, you can see he's still learning.
Of course.
In terms of fluidity. Mm-hmm. He can do the moves. The smooth transitions between the moves aren't there yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's that natural athletic ability that Ace Steel is referring to. Mm-hmm. Is like he can put the work in. He can do the suplex, he can do the whatever, but it's transitioning from the suplex into the next move that I think there was a little stagnation there.
Sure. But again, good for him for going to get it because he's got the it factor. He's got that Conor McGregor, like so many people in MMA force it, like you've got your Conors, you've got your Rondas, etc. Well, Ronda wasn't very charismatic shit, but there's these people like Kobe Covington forcing it. Right? Because he just doesn't really have the it factor. Chael had the it factor.
Be careful, you're talking to the charter member
except
over
for
there.
the guy who was in the pinball machine.
Yes.
But, again, Chael had it, right? But so many people have tried to replicate this. Not everybody in WWE, not everybody can be The Rock. The Rock had the charisma like crazy. Stone Cold, obviously, as well. But CM Punk, right off the bat, had it. And as soon as people saw him, as soon as he gets that straight edge mentality, we'll get into more as we go, you could tell he had it, and now the athleticism just has to catch up. You know what I mean? And he's getting it.
He also has a sense for business, which I found kind of fascinating doing this research. He, especially when he gets to WWE, he goes to Vince with a lot of ideas that are ahead of their time and a lot of ideas that Vince eventually adopts.
Yep.
That Punk was kind of pushing before they ever happened. And even back here, he gets advice from his girlfriend at the time to take on this sort of straight edge thing full on in the ring. And maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of us here, but it's his girlfriend that comes up with that idea for him. So at this point, he's got his training and he's basically doing whatever it takes to make it. And he's taking work any and everywhere he can get it. He's competing multiple shows a night. He's performing at carnivals, Indian reservations, gymnasiums. It doesn't matter. Wherever, whenever, Punk's gonna wrestle. And so he tours the indie scene and he fights for promotions like RCW, MAW, IWA, ROH, and TNA.
Yeah, and like you said, he's doing great. He's put on killer matches, but when the girlfriend suggests the straight edge gimmick, that's where he really takes off because again, he really is the embodiment of what every wrestling fan would hate. He's the good-looking straight edge guy because again, this is that post Stone Cold era where everyone's like a beer drinking. The reputation of wrestling fans is it's like trashy beer drinkers, and whether that's right or not, it's usually incorrect. But a lot of the fan base that goes to those live shows, they're drinking.
Of course.
And he's sitting there going, I don't smoke, I don't drink, like, I'm better than you.
Mm-hmm. That's the kicker. It's not just that he doesn't do it. It's
and because of that, I'm better than
he's
you.
Better than them.
And oh, by the way, I'm the best in the world. Like, he makes sure to let you know he's the best wrestler in the world, and he's better than you in the crowd. So, and in the meantime, half of his storylines are about him stealing people's girlfriends and shit. So he's literally like the most hateable. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But see, but just to add on and continue that, like he's the most hateable because that's like, God, he's such a douche, but you like him.
Okay,
So
and by the way, sorry, there's going to be wrestling guys that are like, he didn't steal people's girlfriends. That's like an ECW shout out, so go fuck yourself. Sorry.
That might not be the first time Tim tells wrestling fans to go fuck themselves. But yes, so in 2002, Punk's career is going to flash before his eyes while he's doing all of this touring of all these indie wrestling scenes, including the IWA Mid-South, which was considered kind of real wrestling. They're doing kind of real moves, so to speak, and really hurting each other. And at about 2002, he's wrestling well-known indie staple Reckless Youth, and the two clash heads during a neck breaker. And the mishap is going to result in a fractured skull for CM Punk, swollen brain, and spinal hemorrhaging. So a very catastrophic injury. Yes.
Good God. What the fuck, man?
Well, here's the best part. It gets better, is that the doctors say it could have killed him, and wrestlers or people who have had lesser injuries have died from them. So the fact that he's alive is amazing. And so what do? Of course, they're going to prescribe he stays out of the ring for a minimum of 14 months.
Clearly.
Of course he's going to obey that, right? And heavy painkillers. Well, Punk's aversion to drugs isn't just marijuana, cocaine, whatever.
Everything.
It's everything. So Punk refuses the painkillers and goes home, lays in a dark room for a month and a half, and then goes back to work. So 14 months off in heavy meds turns into a month and a half off with zero meds.
So
the dude's a machine.
okay. My mind is blown.
That's most
currently.
That 6-week plan is most guys after their first breakup. He did it after his fucking skull got fractured. Just gonna hang out in the dark for a while. Just no TV. Just chill here if you need me. His is like on his deathbed, and he's like, "Get me back out there."
It says a couple things, right? It says he's a, like you said, a machine. He can. It feels like shit. After that, he can almost get through anything. But what does that say about like him? It just intensifies his character as being straight edge. Like, I don't need those drugs to get better. Watch this. It just makes him better.
His discipline is insane.
Well, it's his drive, too. He just wants to get back out there and work. Keep going. Don't play Rihanna, by the way, Zach, when you edit this. But there are some side
lost
effects.
half the wrestling fans with my "Go Fuck Yourself." We lost the other half right there.
My Rihanna
so here we go, MMA fans.
So there's some bad side effects though to him going back to the ring early. So he's got vertigo, lost balance, hearing, spinal fluid leaking out of his ear. Probably not
sweet.
a good thing.
Yeah.
So and he's gonna go back to work and wrestle for 2 straight years with no weekends off.
I can't swim underwater like go 8 feet deep without my ears like popping and filling up with shit. Spinal fluid coming out of your ears.
Hey, listen,
hell,
man, if I stub my toe on the dresser, I'm
You're on
out for 6 weeks, okay? So, like my pinky toe clips on the dresser, forget about it.
Oh, actually, you know what I think might be a little bit worse than that?
No, nothing.
Stubbing your I think stubbing the bed frame is worse than that.
Yeah.
The corner.
Well, the corner of the dresser, that's
Well,
right in
metal,
line. Same
wood.
thing.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It all sucks.
It's way worse than spinal hemorrhaging and stuff like
definitely.
What is
that.
that bullshit?
So, despite the injury and the lingering side effects, Punk presses on and he makes a name for himself in Ring of Honor as a villain in a feud with Raven. And while in Ring of Honor, Punk would also wrestle for NWA TNA, also known as just simply TNA at this point. And it's around this time in Punk's career that he's hired as the first head trainer of Ring of Honor in their wrestling school. And the following year, Punk would compete for the Ring of Honor World title against Samoa Joe in a series of matches, the second of which received a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer in The Observer.
Okay, a few things. First of all, Ring of Honor, you guys may not know too much about them, but his influence there cannot be overstated at all because he's on that the ground floor here. He's a head trainer as it's growing in popularity. He's a part of some of the feuds that really put it on the map. And now to this day, this is, as we'll go over later, independent wrestling is very healthy right now. It's a very real alternative, and he was one of the faces that helped build the first true alternative post WCW for WWE. And ultimately, like we know with the UFC, when you lose pride, when you lose that competitor, like the WWE lost WCW, the business suffers. You need competition. Right here, he's not only is he a big part of it, he's helping develop their future. He's the trainer. So this is a very big moment in wrestling when he's helped building ROH. So we can't get that, confused.
And wasn't Raven, didn't he say he really learned how to work the mic from Raven?
Yeah, the Raven psychology, he's like, again, he totally understands the business. It's one of the crazier characters like in wrestling history. A lot of the wrestling fans will tell you like he's got some of the best stories they've ever told. But the feud is awesome. Like, I don't know if you were planning on going over what that was based on, but it's a great story.
I don't know the story, so please
Well, it's just
inform us.
CM Ravens, and the true story of Scott Levy, Raven, is just that he is a phenomenally talented guy, but he has a huge drug problem, and it
That's right. I
he
do remember
struggled
that.
all the way through until he got to ECW, and Paul Heyman basically made a story out of it. He made him a character with addiction problems, and big surprise, much like CM Punk, it works. It's the old Stone Cold. It works when it's yourself on 11, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, they made it about his addiction problems. So the feud here is that CM Punk is pissed off that Raven has pissed it all away. He's this super talented guy who had all the opportunities in the world during the golden period of wrestling, and he pissed it away with the drug problem. So it's an awesome feud. It's an awesome story.
It's a real.
It's again, it's the best parts of wrestling are the parts that are based in reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be kind of a recurring theme here, and that was one of the first awesome ones where they incorporated that.
So I'm noticing a little irony here because Punk says that he got his on the mic kind of lesson from Raven. Raven's the one who he really learns from when it comes to his promos. And he says that he really got schooled in the wrestling side of things when he fought Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Well, Eddie Guerrero was out of the WWE temporarily at that time because of his drug use and addiction and stuff.
Eventually died because
eventually
of
died.
his
Yeah.
abuse and steroids.
So it's just, I don't know if it's irony or what it is. I don't know what the word for it is, but here's this uber straight edge guy whose literal gimmick is, I don't do any drugs or alcohol. And he's learning the most about the business of wrestling from two guys that pissed it all away.
And you know what's awesome? How many people in their lives would shut down if somebody that they believe does something that's beneath them tried to give them advice?
Absolutely.
Because in his mind, he maybe could it would be understandable if he belittled the people with these habits, but he doesn't. He listens to them.
Yeah.
He respects it. It's pretty awesome.
That is. And then doesn't he have a thing with Hardy
Eventually,
later on in WWE
Same
that's similar
thing.
to this Raven kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yep.
So he kind of brings this storyline back years
yeah,
later.
he makes it a huge deal.
With Matt?
No, Jeff.
Jeff.
With Jeff.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, because I know Matt as kind of like the, I don't want to say crazy one, but the odd one.
Talking about broken Matt Hardy right now?
Yeah.
No, but Jeff has major addiction problems
Gotcha.
that he just literally got a DUI a few months ago. Still
no,
to this
still-
day.
he's
Yeah,
still
even
having
with
problems.
another chance.
I thought didn't the Hardys come back
they're
strong?
back.
Yeah.
Awesome story. Yeah, it was like the story of a WrestleMania like a year
2
ago,
years
and now
ago
he
or a
just
year
got a
ago.
DUI again. He's back again, and he's got like a title and everything. But yeah, so
Just got to stop the bullshit.
yeah, slow down.
Well, Punk's growing popularity in the indie scene, coupled with his skills and hard work ethic, garnered attention from the WWE. And in September of 2005, Punk would be assigned to Ohio Valley Wrestling, a developmental division of WWE. And here, Punk would compete in dark matches and would eventually become the OVW champ and tag team champ.
Yeah, and he's super pissed off to be in OVW. He, in his mind, when he gets signed by them, because again, I just realized that we're about to skip over the goddamn Summer of Punk, aren't we? I'm gonna lose my mind. You've got him in OVW, don't you?
I do have
I
him in
spaced out for
OVW.
3 fucking seconds, and you just skip the Summer of
That's
Punk.
what happened. He goes to OVW.
Speaking of slowing down, well, right.
I thought the Summer of Punk's later in his career.
No, that's Summer of Punk 2.
Okay,
Okay,
well, now
so-
I'm confused.
All right, so now
it's like
every,
Infest 2
again,
later in the
every
year.
yeah, every wrestling fan just had a heart attack. All right,
Okay,
hold
well,
on, Zach. Do you
'em-
know about Summer of
keep
Punk?
'em
Sure
grounded
don't.
here.
But
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Yeah, here we go. Get your popcorn ready.
Hold on.
Yep. Okay. That's a rubber ducky. That's not popcorn. Okay. So he's in ROH, and he's a guy that he's always looking for a new challenge. He's always looking for something to keep him excited. And again, to this day, that's still a thing. And he basically decides it's time. He never planned on leaving Ring of Honor. He was making a good living. He thought, you know what, I'll just do this. I'm happy with the travel schedule. I'm happy with the money. I'll do this forever. Well, eventually he gets tired and he wants a new challenge. So he goes and he signs with WWE, obviously. As we said, he ends up in OVW, their minor leagues. Well, what he knows, again, the psychology here is he knows the internet's going to find out. And so he says, let's fuck with everybody. So the only people that knows are him, like the WWE and the Ring of Honor management. And he says, listen, we're going to do my big farewell match. Everyone on the internet's going to know I'm leaving. So they do. They go do his farewell match. And everyone's there chanting, please don't go. And they've got streamers for him. And there's people all emotional. And he gets this big, baby face reaction. And everyone's like, well, he's going to lose tonight. And that's going to be his farewell. Well, he ends up winning the match. And all these internet fans who think they're smart are like, wait, what the fuck's going on? He just won the Ring of Honor title on his last night, air quotes. And he's literally just gets the mic and is like, basically, haha, I told you. You're all idiots. You think you know what's going on. You don't. We fooled you. He literally, as he leaves, he walks out pointing at people like, I fooled you. You bought it. You thought I was leaving. And so then he spends this entire summer where everyone's like, but he signed with WWE, what's going on? And he comes out in a suit every week, and he's like, I'm professional now, and he's like, I'm the champion. He literally, actually in real life, signs his WWE contract on the Ring of Honor title on
That's
Ring of Honor
right.
TV.
I remember that.
So that was a plan set
So
by them.
the
That
three
wasn't
worked
him
together.
being like a dick.
So no, they tricked the internet fans completely, and so it's called the
okay.
Summer of Punk because he keeps getting in these matches and he keeps winning. So they're always like, all right, this is his last match. He's done now, and he'll win again and again and again, and then finally he loses the title. And then after the match after that is his actual farewell in Chicago, which is like this it's against Colt Cabana, and it's like this super emotional thing. So he got like one of the craziest send-offs ever. But the Summer of Punk is like one of the most historic things in wrestling history.
Damn.
It's a wild one.
That's crazy. See, I thought the signing was like a fuck you, kind of like to Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor? No.
No.
I didn't know it was a plan.
You just got to view
It's a common thing too. There's a lot of things he's done that I thought was planned, but come to find out, it's real.
Yeah, he's good with.
This guy's the real deal.
You're all in.
Well, that's what I meant
go.
when I said his business sense is smart. Because,
Yes.
yes, I did remember reading that, seeing that he kind of came up. That was in his DVD, right?
Right.
His documentary?
Yes.
So, yes, I do remember him telling that story now that you say it.
So the reason this is such a jarring change for him is he goes from that, which is one of the craziest stories in wrestling at the time, to now down to OVW. And he's like, well, I'm the face of independent wrestling. I'm like running the show out there. I'm one of the better wrestlers. He literally thinks he's the best wrestler in the world. Why am I in the minor leagues? So he's got a chip on his shoulder right away. So that's why he's super pissed off when he's down there.
And it's going to kind of stay there his whole career.
Yeah, that chip never really goes away, but luckily he's got Paul Heyman down there to protect him, and this is really where he runs into Paul Heyman for the first time, who champions him and is like, I don't know why this guy's down here, but sure.
And you said Paul Heyman kind of worked with Raven too, right?
But yeah, exactly. He's
So
the
it's
one
interesting. Paul Heyman's
Is he like
smart dude.
Is he like? Would you consider like one of the greatest managers of all time?
Paul Heyman?
Like,
yeah,
is
he's
he
like
the
one of the
greatest?
geniuses. Yeah, because he seems to pull, because he didn't have much money when he ran wrestling companies, so he pulls the most out of people because he couldn't get great talent in ECW necessarily, but he always pulled the most out of them. And he
to
literally
make it seem great.
You said you like Stone Cold. He's literally the first one that Stone Cold got fired via FedEx
Yeah,
from WCW,
nope.
goes to ECW, and then they let him run his mouth, and that is what slowly became the Stone Cold character.
Eric Bischoff.
Yep.
Fucker.
There we go.
Don't get him started on Stone Cold.
yeah.
We'll get off topic here real fast. So, can I move forward? Or am
You're
I
good.
allowed to move on?
You skipped the Summer of Punk, so I'm calming down.
Summer Punk.
Okay, so now
Check.
we're in OVW, and we're going to fast forward. In March of 2003 at WrestleMania 24, Punk is going to win his first Money in the Bank ladder match and would cash it in after Batista beats up Edge for the title. And Punk would defend the title in July and August until Randy Orton soccer kicks Punk in the head, or boots him in the head, or what punts his head. And then that ends his reign at 69 days.
What MMA
So how's
fans,
all this go down?
What MMA fans need to know here is that you've got to understand that he's got a chip on his shoulder in OVW. He's pissed off, doesn't understand why he's there. He gets called up to ECW, which is like a slight step up. Again, chip on his shoulder, doesn't know why he's there, works with Paul Heyman, he's happy. finally, we just skipped over a couple, years here. He gets called up to Raw or whatever, and they don't take him seriously at all. They don't get him. And he keeps pushing through because, like they say, even when the opportunity's not there, even though he's getting sent out there to lose, he's still doing his job and doing it well. So over time, they're like, maybe this guy is for real. He's connecting with the fans, so they finally give him this chance and let him win Money in the Bank. So again, it's just that theme of no one ever gets it, no one ever wants him there, and he's always going, why am I down here? I should be on the top. I should be the best. I am the best. So he just deals with this adversity very well. Because, you just got to a crowning achievement for him, but he had to battle for years to get that and just get shit on. So now he's made it back to where he was in the independent scene.
Yeah.
But he had to fight for his life to get there.
And right around this time is when he makes his TV debut, right? Like just before
that on ECW and stuff, yeah. But again, they held him back forever. Oh, boy.
Why are you smiling?
I'm going to go ahead and say no to that. So actually, the TV debut came in when he was much younger and still a talker, I guess you would say.
Okay.
But his aunt would send in a clip of him on
His who?
Who?
Oh, boy.
His what?
His aunt?
Aunt?
It's aunt, man. Aunt doesn't sound right. Spell it for
Aunt.
me.
I know, you're good. Keep going.
Go ahead.
Anyway, she would send in a video to a news channel that would show him on Bozo the Clown, the TV show, the TV series.
Oh, I'm very familiar with
See, I'm
Bozo.
not.
You didn't grow up in Illinois?
I know who Bozo the Clown is. I thought it was like a... never mind. Anyway, it was much different. It was much different. Anyway.
So you never watched Bozo at all?
No. Well, no.
Was Bozo nationally televised?
Well, WGN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Chicago based, but it. Yeah,
No, man.
The grand
it's shown
prize game?
everywhere.
My house, it was... wrestling, I believe, was on Spike then. Oh, no, TNT.
You're so
it was
young.
on TNT.
Yeah, you're so
God.
young.
TNT, ESPN, or Disney Channel. Sorry.
Okay,
That's what
well.
I'm on.
So you missed
Grand prize
Bozo
game.
Buckets.
Yeah, the grand
but go ahead.
Bozo
Bozo
Buckets
Buckets.
were the greatest thing ever.
So, no, he's on this show, and they're playing a little game. He would end up winning this game, but he's like saying jokes, and like the host is like, okay, I'll tell the jokes, kid. Like he doesn't like them, right? Or he's
Hey,
not a fan.
Put your insecurities away. It's a little kid, dude. It's not about you,
As
man.
soon as he wins, he's like, "Oh, the jokester wins," and it's like, and then he wins. What game did he win? Don't Wake the Dragon. But
Well, and they woke the dragon.
Yeah,
But
apparently.
this just reminds me of the video that you sent me, Taylor, of him being not so down with the clown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Sir, come on, man.
That was a great video.
And he's got to be down with the clown wrestling and stuff. They were backyard wrestlers, man. Violent J and who is it? Shaggy
Got a-
2 Dope. Oh,
Got a
come on,
juggalo
man.
sighting in the house here.
Let's
Again,
go.
I'm down with the crown.
So that
not the
clip,
clown.
Down with the crown.
We are
Yeah.
Tim and I are down with the crown. So that clip was him wrestling and then basically telling everyone in the crowd.
They
I mean,
go
it's
fuck
vintage
themselves.
CM Punk, right?
Yeah.
Just
Well, and they're supporting him. There was a girl that had Punk on her shirt.
and then he just
And then
roasts
he
her.
rips into her because she's wearing a
Yes.
hockey mask and like.
What do you say?
"Come
Like
fight
you're
me."
so
Like,
ugly.
you
Like,
gotta
you're the
wear a
smartest one for wearing a mask. All these other ugly ass people are wearing
He
one.
tells some kid, he tells some kid, he's like, get your like fat ass down here or something like that. He comes down and he's just talking mad shit with people. And I'm sorry, like I know he's not maybe down with the clown, but I'm starting to become a fan of this guy. I like this guy. This guy's pretty cool, man.
Well, I'm glad you are. So from here, Punk is going to continue his rise by winning the World Tag Team Championship with partner Kingston. Sorry, Kofi. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Next, Punk would enter the Intercontinental Tournament and would defeat Rey Mysterio in the finals to win the belt. And with this win, Punk had set himself among wrestling's elite, becoming the 19th Triple Crown winner. And can you explain, Tim, what Triple Crown winner is?
Triple Crown is horse race.
Or baseball.
Or baseball. Mm-hmm. What?
Wrestling has
It's
one
a
too.
wrestling thing too?
You have to win like a world title or like WWE title or heavyweight title, intercontinental, and tag. So he held all three of those.
Is that not common?
Well, Grand
the
Slam,
19th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Grand
Well, I
Slam
get it,
champion is like the
19th, but I
really
mean-
rare one. What you want to take away from this, what WWE would want you to take away from this is, yeah, look at this. He's winning tag titles. He's a Triple Crown winner. He's doing this. He's doing that. But what you actually need to do is rewind a little bit and see right there where Randy Orton soccer kicks him. And that happened the day of a pay-per-view. Punk is the champion, and they tell him up until that day he's going to headline that pay-per-view. And then he shows up to the building, and they're like, we're writing you out of the main event. And they basically put Randy Orton over. They let him kick him. And the rumor is that Shawn Michaels basically like campaigned for the title to be in his feud that he was in with Chris Jericho. So they're like, listen, pull it off Punk. Punk loses it that night, doesn't even get to fight for it. He loses it in like a little like 5-person match that he's not even in. They pull it off of him. And then he gets sent down to this bullshit with the tag titles and all this shit. So in the meantime, it looks great on a Wikipedia page, but this is actually a pretty dark time in his career where he gets fucked by corporate. Does that make sense?
Man, that's heartbreaking too, because Shawn Michaels was one of his heroes growing up.
Hence the Heartbreak Kid.
Wow, damn, that just came full circle.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's the thing, though, is Michaels and Triple H ended up being two of the more active campaigning against him a lot of the time. So they just, not a lot of that older generation just didn't get it. But here's my question for you, Zach.
Shawn Michaels and Triple H campaigning against CM Punk? Like, this is whole the D-Generation X, like, this is all of this happening?
Well, this is later, but that would be my question for you, is Shawn Michaels is not a big guy. He's a guy with tattoos. He's a guy who was different and out there. DX was very controversial. Mm-hmm. Why is he pushing down someone like CM Punk? Because aren't there a lot of similarities?
Yeah, I would think so.
Is CM Punk a threat to his spot?
I think that's, you know what I think that is? I think that's like two lions fighting for the top spot or what would try to be the top spot.
Yep.
100%. Damn, that's really interesting.
He's protecting his spot, especially at the end of his career. He's got to see the young lion, like you said, who's got the same, again, small frame, tattoos, brash guy.
So if they're coming up together, it's
I've
like
never made that
I gotta beat this guy to the punch, basically. Like he's got to beat him to that top spot, and then he's got to kind of look at like who's gonna take over after me. Type.
Yep.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And all this time, I didn't even know CM Punk exist in WWF.
Yep. Well, there you go.
Well, it would be WWE at this point, right?
Well,
yeah.
WWE. So,
sorry, no lawsuits.
So yeah,
that's okay. So Punk's career at this point, he's kind of, I mean, on the surface at least, like you said, Tim, it looks like he's accomplished more than the average guy. You know, being a Triple Crown winner, it looks like kind of everything is great.
But and to your point, he's digging his way out of this with what you're about to get to. As he's down like relegated to the mid card, he gets creative on his own. He basically says, "Fuck this! They're not coming up with anything for me. I'm gonna go with what I want." And he creates the Straight Edge Society, which is this like borderline. He always says this isn't true, but wrestling fans feel like almost like a Charles Manson-esque feel to it, like of a cult of he brings these people in with addiction problems and he helps them turn it around, and that's the whole deal. He has like the Mask of Purity, and it's actually considered some of the better stuff he ever did because they just let him run free because they're like, fuck it, he's on SmackDown, nobody's watching, and he kind of got to do whatever he wanted, and all of a sudden everyone's taking notice going like, wait, this is some of the best shit going on in wrestling, and no one's watching.
So I'm going to come back to this in the Untold portion of our show because I really want to talk about that and how that relates to the UFC. But this is where I was familiar with the Summer of Punk and that legendary promo that he cuts. This is about that same time. This is the pipe bomb promo. But
this that John Cena.
This is the John Cena pipe bomb promo, Summer of Punk. But I've now come to know that this was Summer of Punk 2, and actually not the original pipe bomb promo either.
Correct.
So the original pipe bomb promo was in Ring of Honor.
Yep, where he refers to it as a pipe bomb.
Where he refers to the mic as a pipe bomb.
Yep.
And then this is now the what they call it, the fourth wall promo.
Yeah, he breaks the fourth. This is the other.
So what is that? Because I was a little confused, but I actually kind of remember watching that live. For some reason, it's there, but I don't remember.
Well, let's do this. Let's play at least a portion of the clip for the fans to hear.
Well, let's give some context real quick. So he does Straight Edge Society. He's loving it. they basically pull him away from his pet project that everyone is enamored with, and they're like, we need you for Nexus. So they have him run this other stable. They ruin the shit he's working on with his friends. And it finally all starts to add up in his head, and he's like, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm out. I'm not having fun anymore. I'm leaving. So he actually intends fully on leaving. And once again, just like the Ring of Honor thing, the whole world thinks he's leaving WWE, and it's like, all right, he's probably going to go to New Japan or Ring of Honor again. He's out. Well, his contract's up in like 2 weeks at Money in the Bank, or it's a week actually. And he comes out at the end of the show and attacks John Cena, and then he cuts this promo.
I'm the best. I'm the best in the world. There's one thing you're better at than I am, and that's kissing Vince McMahon's ass. You're as good as kissing Vince's ass as Hulk Hogan was. I don't know if you're as good as Dwayne, though. He's a pretty good ass kisser. Always was and still is. Oops, I'm breaking the fourth wall. I am the best wrestler in the world. I've been the best ever since day one when I walked into this company, and I've been vilified and hated since that day because Paul Heyman saw something in me that nobody else wanted to admit. That's right, I'm a Paul Heyman guy. You know who else was a Paul Heyman guy? Brock Lesnar. And he's split, just like I'm splitting, but the biggest difference between me and Brock is I'm going to leave with the WWE Championship. I've grabbed so many of Vincent K. McMahon's imaginary brass rings that it's finally dawned on me that they're just that. They're completely imaginary. The only thing that's real is me, and the fact that day in and day out for almost 6 years I have proved to everybody in the world that I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary. Nobody can touch me. And yet, no matter how many times I prove it, I'm not on your lovely little collector cups. I'm not on the cover of the program. I'm barely promoted. I don't get to be in movies. I'm certainly not on any crappy show on the USA Network. I'm not on the poster of WrestleMania. I'm not in the signature that's produced at the start of the show. I'm not on Conan O'Brien, I'm not on Jimmy Fallon, but the fact of the matter is I should be, and trust me, this isn't sour grapes, but the fact that Dwayne is in the main event of WrestleMania next year and I'm not makes me sick. Oh, and hey, let me get something straight. Those of you who are cheering me right now, you are just the biggest part of me leaving as anything else. Because you're the ones that are sipping out of those collector cups right now. You're the ones that buy those programs that my face isn't on the cover of. And then at 5 in the morning at the airport, you try to shove it in my face so you can get an autograph and try to sell it on eBay because you're too lazy to go get a real job. I'm leaving with the WWE Championship on July 17th, and hell, who knows, maybe I'll go defend it in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Maybe I'll go back to Ring of Honor. Hey, Colt Cabana, how you doing? The reason I'm leaving is you people, because after I'm gone, you're still gonna pour money into this company. I'm just a spoke on the wheel. The wheel's gonna keep turning, and I understand that. But Vince McMahon's gonna make money to spite himself. He's a millionaire who should be a billionaire. You know why he's not a billionaire? It's because he surrounds himself with glad-handing, nonsensical yes men like John Laurinaitis, who's gonna tell him everything that he wants to hear. And I'd like to think that maybe this company will be better after Vince McMahon's dead. But the fact is, it's going to get taken over by his idiotic daughter and his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family.
So there it is, one of the craziest promos in wrestling history, where he's breaking the fourth wall. He's wearing a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt.
Love it.
Yeah.
But can you? So I don't.
What do you cut up on the fourth wall thing?
Yeah,
the
like,
fact that
what-
he's
what is that
openly
fourth wall?
waving at the camera, acknowledging he's on TV. He's saying hi to people like Colt
So is it
Cabana.
like what you said earlier, like breaking character?
He's breaking
Yeah,
character.
he's
Gotcha.
threatening to go to other companies like Ring of
Okay.
Honor, which again, the wrestling business back when you would watch it in the Attitude Era, they wouldn't even acknowledge, like WWE would say, the company down south. He's specifically saying, maybe I'll go to Ring of Honor, maybe
Or
I'll go
New
to New
Japan.
Japan.
Because it's like a promoting on a bigger stage.
So he's so again, everyone's like, all right, that was cute and all. They're just trying to sell tickets for Chicago. He's definitely going to lose. And I remember at the time I wasn't watching any wrestling, and I was alerted to this promo to turn it on. Much like Zach, you might have run into it. You may not remember it, but that was a really big deal. It made like mainstream news because WWE, again, it's scripted, is breaking the fourth wall. They're acknowledging what's going on. So everyone tunes into Money in the Bank in Chicago, and it's like a crazy atmosphere. It's like a rabid crowd. They're all freaking out, and it's like this classic match with Cena. There's, Cena wins, we riot type of attitude, and his contract expires that night at midnight. Well, Punk wins, and everyone's like, wait, what? And
So it's kind of like the Ring of Honor thing.
it is.
Again.
It's they repeat
They brought it back.
And again, the WWE fans, a lot of them at the time had not seen the original Summer of Punk, so they do this and they're like, "Wait, what the fuck's going on?" Well, they do a great job. They make it look real. They have Vince come out screaming. He like has Alberto Del Rio come out. They try to catch Punk. Well, Punk in real life runs up through the crowd, hops in the cab, goes straight to his apartment, and runs inside and locks the door, not to be seen. And they have him hiding out there. And the idea is he's left with the title and his contract is expired, is the story. But little do people know, much like Ring of Honor, he's signed an extension and he's staying. So everyone's all fired up about it. It's all everyone's talking about, and it looks like it's going to be the story of the next year. But not so
didn't
much.
they cut it too short? So I read some about this, and it seems like some fans at least thought that they should have carried that storyline a little bit further, let it maturate a little bit, let it marinate, and then he comes back like a week later.
8 days.
8 days later.
They botch it beyond belief. They have him come back in 8 days. He granted, the feud with Cena is awesome and everything, but they have him lose thanks to interference by Kevin Nash to like Alberto Del Rio, and they bury him again. And it's that sign that even when he does everything he possibly can to make himself the most attractive, lucrative act they could have, they fucking botch it because, again, I don't think they know what to do with him. And they bury him over and over. But he even gets another shot because all the fans are disgusted, ratings are struggling again, and they give him another shot. Well, he ends up now he gets the belt back, and he has the longest title reign in modern history, and he's finally heading for this big WrestleMania moment. He's finally going to get his way. And even though that whole time they weren't featuring him as much on the pay-per-views as they should, he's like, that's cool because I'm going to get my WrestleMania moment. I've been the champion for over a year.
Which, by the way, that was what he wanted.
This is what he wants.
That was his dream.
If this, again, our MMA Untold
just
episodes are
WrestleMania.
always the journey for the title. His wasn't about winning the WWE title. He's wanted a main event at WrestleMania. And he's like, well, this is my year. This is the year of Punk. All people care about is CM Punk. They come up on WrestleMania and they tell him The Rock is coming back and they need to put the belt on The Rock.
And is this what he was talking about in the Colby Covington interview where he said The Rock, Colby Covington,
son of a bitch,
jeez.
Kofi Kingston.
Yeah,
Colby.
No, Copacabana.
Who's
is what I was trying to say.
Cabana?
Who's really on the damn bus?
Yeah, me.
Colt
All
Cabana.
right, so Colt Cabana, is this what he was talking about when he said they wanted him to turn heel, and Rock wanted to fight a villain, basically?
Yeah.
And so Punk goes along with it, even though he was as a face, as the likable guy. He's outselling Cena in merchandise,
Making way more cash.
He's making way more cash, but he agrees to do this because, again, he's got his eyes on the prize, and then they screw him again?
Yep. They screw him. Well, because he literally goes out there, and once again, he turns it into this amazing feud. It's some of the best promos ever. Very famous, and even at the time, it was one of those things where people were like, wait a minute, they might have to keep him in the main event, because you could tell they were going to try to do Rock and Cena too, but people could tell at the time, like, oh, Jesus, he's really going to get his way into this main event. It makes all the sense in the world. And they didn't. They went with Rock and Cena 2, and they had no plan with him long term, and they just proceeded. I mean, they gave him The Undertaker, but again, he did not get his main event at all. And it's a slap to the face because if you fast forward to like a year ago, Roman Reigns got the main event with The Undertaker, but CM Punk couldn't back then. It couldn't be the main event.
What a damn shame. So I guess by this time, Punk's, I mean, he's moving forward. He's having success, but it's being stifled, and that mood is kind of shifting. And I think things at this point are kind of coming to a head. And we get the introduction of the Shield, and then not long after, I think less than 2 years later, Punk's going to have a final falling out with Vince in the WWE.
Yeah, and the Shield thing's a pretty famous story too. Just that it was his idea. He wanted to bring in since he was a bad guy. Now they needed him to have backup. They call it a heater in wrestling, and they wanted him. And he's like, let's bring up these three guys.
Was it Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns? Who's the other guy?
Dean
didn't
Ambrose,
want
but he didn't
Roman
want
Reigns.
Roman Reigns.
Oh,
he wanted
so I
Chris
just
Hero.
trying
No,
to
you're right.
connect the
No,
two.
you're
That
good. No,
is
it's
the
good. It's a good.
Shield.
Gotcha.
But WWE, look, it was probably the right move. As much as everyone hates Roman Reigns, obviously Chris Hero still struggles to this day, and Roman Reigns is huge, whether you like him or not. You know, it's a really big deal.
Isn't he related to The Rock and all that
Right.
stuff?
Yeah.
So
They make the call. They bring him in, but Punk just starts to get really worn down with the lack of direction for his character, the lack of breaks that he gets, the fact that every time he turns around in this, he ends up having a feud with the Shield. It's just make sure Roman looks good. Make sure Roman looks good. So he's getting shit on.
Well, he's just busting his ass essentially for no reason.
WWE Network is coming. He's going to lose his cut of the pay-per-views. So everything's spiraling out of
and
control.
this is about
here.
the time, right, when he's actually, here's a little parallel to the UFC. He's bringing these ideas to Vince, like, hey, WWE, they've got sponsorships on their shorts.
UFC.
Or UFC's
Yep.
got sponsors on their shorts. Why don't I start wearing those kinds of shorts, and I'll put sponsors on them? Because he was getting offers at the time from large companies, and he's like, it's going to make me money, it's going to make the company money. And then Vince turns it down, and then Brock goes over to UFC and comes back, and he's got sponsors on his shorts.
Jimmy Johns and Jack Links and all that shit.
So Punk's idea, Brock reaps the harvest, the benefit. Same thing with, he wanted to walk out with Chael Sonnen, right?
Very famously, because we were obviously at the
We were
show.
at
We
that
were
show.
looking
Yes.
forward to Punk
For
being
CM
at
Punk.
it, and they pulled.
And then Vince said no, and then Triple H comes out with Mayweather.
Yep.
Like a couple weeks later.
And again, Vince doesn't want to be associated with something as barbaric as the UFC, forgetting all of the problems, the actual deaths in the WWE, like Owen Hart, let alone all the brutality. And I love, he says, Vince was upset that the UFC was about to have the women fight. And Punk's like, yeah, it's going to be a really big deal too. And that quote aged well.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to wrap my head around these things so listeners, like this is cool for me because I'm learning.
Yeah.
Normally we come in here, we tell you a story, we do, these guys justice or whatnot, but I'm so blind to anything wrestling. Like, this is fascinating, but it's also like, what the fuck did Vince have a problem with? Like, it seems like he just had a problem with him.
Because
Why?
because Vince struggles.
He wasn't
If
a
something
kiss-ass?
isn't his idea, if Vince didn't come up with it, he never fully embraces it.
So he turns it down, but then makes it seem like it's his idea by letting someone else do it.
Yeah, like they never truly even necessarily wanted CM Punk. When they first signed him, they more just needed to kind of take him off the independent scene and figure out if they could make anything of him.
Blow it up.
Yeah, it's like he's, again, a top prospect in another organization. You don't know how to use him, but you bury him in yours so they don't have him, type of thing.
It's kind of like how the UFC would bury Strikeforce and, essentially Pride. Like, they get rid of them.
It's like
and bring their
sometimes
fighters over.
The UFC they get these people and they don't even know what to do with them. Like if they get Aaron Pico and they put him in there with the wrong people and totally screw it up or something, it'd be like if they put Gaethje in there with wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do with him, and so the whole way through they're just fighting him on it. They don't like his look, they don't like anything about his act, but it just keeps working. And so they're up until the very end, they push back on him. And again, it's like he's ahead of his time with these things about the sponsors and shit. He's trying to get into the movies. They're taking him out at the last second. He's doing everything the right way all the way through, and they won't leave him alone. They push back until the end.
So that's the final straw. Punk's done with the WWE and perhaps wrestling in general forever. And it's about this time that he wants a change, a new challenge. And so he sets his sights on fighting, real fighting this time. And he announces that he's going to try his hand at MMA. And this is met with a wild mixture of boos, cheers, laughter, and a lot of head scratching. So Punk.
Well, this was it was UFC 181, right? It was Robbie Lawler, Johnny Hendricks. I think wasn't this I believe it was was it for the interim or was it
that feud was so awesome. What happened to Johnny Hendricks?
Johnny, damn it, Johnny.
It's our boy Pettis. This it's kind of familiar names because he ends up training with him and whatnot. And our boy Brendan Swab.
Swab was on the Punk card?
All right.
Well,
Or when he makes that announcement.
when he makes that,
Got
when
it.
the announcement was made. But yeah, he announces it, and like you said, like the head scratchers, cheers. I don't know. Were you cheering, Tim?
Yeah, well, I think at that point you're just happy to see CM Punk show back up somewhere because he had basically become a
Sure.
recluse after he left. He wouldn't comment on anything.
I will have to say I was a head scratcher. I'm like,
Yeah.
Why? What is he doing here? Like, because we got the Brock, right? And Brock turned out to be good. And I don't think there definitely wasn't the backlash for Brock. I mean, maybe a little bit at first, and he's up against Frank Mir, loses. They're like, oh, this guy can't make it, type of thing. Comes back, wins. He's like, okay, he can. But then, like for me, it was, I don't think Punk can do it. All right, and those of you fuming right now, like. My narrative changes on Punk, so I'll get to that. But yeah, man, I was a head scratcher. Like, what? Why? Like, is it just because I was a part of that group of like, oh, he just has a big name, now he's just gonna get in somewhere because he has that big name, So I don't know. Like, what do you say to someone like me? Like, it's a head scratcher. Like, why the fuck? Why?
Why not? They're desperate for draws and they need somebody, and if he wants to give it a shot, it's been a dream of his. Why not? I mean, I'm sure we can.
We're gonna get into this in the untold. So Punk at this point announces that he's coming to UFC, and doesn't he originally doesn't he pitch to Dana like, put me on the Ultimate Fighter?
Put me on tough. And they won't do it.
And they're like, no, we're just going to throw you on a card.
Because they want to make the money.
And then all the UFC fans are bitching because he's getting a primetime spot.
And the gem is that MMA media, like Brandon Schaub, was also literally going out there and bitching and saying, like, he belongs on Tough. And it's like, hey, jackass, he actually requested to be on Tough.
Yes.
So do your
But that
fucking
got
research.
lost. That narrative got completely lost. But so Punk gets his wish to at least fight in the UFC, and they book him against newcomer Mickey Gall. And the fight went as a lot of people predicted, with Punk being finished in the first round via submission. But
hey, Mickey, you're so fine.
Okay, you son of a bitch. I can't believe this.
I'm sorry. Taylor lost his train of thought.
no, I did not.
He goes.
I'm just pausing.
He goes.
so you
My
can
narrative
finish that.
on CM Punk is going to change, and then we get to the fight, and he proceeds to sing Mickey Gall's theme
Because I'm
song
all on
and
it.
smile
Because
like
I
a
was all
schoolgirl.
on it. I knew it. I'm sorry. Continue.
You knew it.
Oh, you knew it. What were the odds on that, jackass? Like,
Yeah.
There weren't any odds.
Congratulations.
There weren't any odds.
Thanks.
So
No.
you predicted that, Nostradamus? Great job. Anyway, despite all the haters like Zach over here,
I definitely was.
Punk was classy in defeat, and he delivers a powerful message after he loses. And let's just go ahead and play that clip, because this will put things into perspective here.
Listen, man, I admire what you did. You're a brave man. You took a crazy chance, and everybody should respect that. That said, what a giant leap that you just attempted to come in here with no martial arts experience and to take 2 years of training and to fight against a young, tough kid like that. You definitely chose the hard road, sir.
Yeah, in life, you go big or you go home. I just like to take challenges. This was a hell of a mountain to try to climb, and I didn't get to the summit today, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I appreciate all the support from everybody. Obviously, Mickey's a hell of a fighter. I will be back, believe it or not. This was the most fun I've ever had in my life. Second best night of my life, besides marrying my wife, obviously. I know there's a lot of doubters, but listen, life's about, falling down and getting up. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it's about getting back up. So if there's any kid out there that's told by a parent or a coach or a teacher or somebody that they look up to, somebody that's supposed to push them and believe in them, and they're told no, don't listen to them. Believe in yourself. Sometimes the outcome isn't always what you desire it to be. But the true failure in life is not trying at all. I know that sounds preachy and kind of weird for a guy who just got beat up, but this is the time of my life. Thank you, Cleveland.
Yeah, and after that, that's, regardless of what I thought before, this is kind of where, I start to shift towards CM Punk, because I like someone like this who isn't going to be the greatest, athlete of all time or whatever. All he wanted to do was challenge himself. And that's what I respect. And this is where my respect grows and is continuing to grow. Him being a humble guy, him being a professional, and, just doing the things that he wants to do because he wants to do it.
Well, and the shame is that all these, people that say he's an asshole, or MMA fans that think it's offensive that he's even in there, what they should realize is that in defeat, he's this classy. You should be looking at people like Tito Ortiz, who makes a ton of excuses when he loses. Forrest Griffin, who runs away from the cage when he loses. Michael Chiesa, who runs away from the cages when he loses. These people that constantly blame the judges. He goes out there and is like, I got my fucking ass kicked. But hey, tell people they can live their dream. I tried. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I just think you should actually be proud of someone like that and not shit on them, because he's actually, again, you find out what a person's really made of when the chips are down. In that moment, these other guys, they buckle, But look at how Conor handled his loss. That was a telling sign that he was going to rebound. Look at how Ronda handles her losses. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, sure. Is he going to win his second fight? It's an uphill battle. It's unlikely. But as a person, is he going to rebound in general? You're damn right he is, and we're going to get to that as we go.
So it's been 2 years since that fight with Mickey Gall, since that speech, and Punk is now scheduled to return to the Octagon against Mike Jackson on June 9th in his hometown of Chicago, and we will be there live watching. And a million questions wait to be answered, during this fight. But regardless of the outcome, regardless of whether Brooks returns to the Octagon after this fight or CM Punk chooses to wrestle again, one thing's for sure: Phil Brooks, CM Punk, is going to move forward in the direction he chooses. He is going to challenge himself, and you can be damn sure that he's going to do it with 100% effort and intensity. So that concludes the story of CM Punk. And of course, before we go on, we understand we could have done 5 episodes on CM Punk. We could have gone into all of his different matches in wrestling. So if you're a diehard wrestling fan listening to this, we understand what we've left out.
And to that fan, I would tell you, listen, we know we're here to tell the MMA fans who CM Punk is, because as you guys know, the wrestling fans know, he has, as we just said, not been greeted very well. Okay, it's not been a receptive audience, and we just want people to know why they should care about him. So yeah, we wanted to go over the main stuff. Did we skip some things? Sure. There's a lot of stuff out there on Punk, but we just are trying to appeal to these people to give this guy a chance.
So before we move into the untold portion, Zach, I want to specifically direct your kind of takeaways. I want to direct this at you. What did you get from hearing CM Punk's story from The Godfather, kind of filling in the details? And Tim, I don't expect you to answer this, but Zach, what are kind of your takeaways? And then I'll give you mine.
So I'll start off with just, everybody complains, especially MMA fans, or wrestling's fake, right? Well, hearing his story, one, who cares? It's scripted. Everybody knows that, right?
Well, but like we've said, your favorite cartoon is fucking scripted too. Yeah, so is Game of Thrones.
What stands out to me, though, is it may be scripted, like the outcomes, but you clearly see in CM Punk's story the reality of wrestling what it can do if you're not on the right side of, say, someone's, future, or like, his outlook via like Vince McMahon. Like if you're not on the right side where he wants to promote you, he can screw you. And it just showed that just because it's scripted, there are real struggles in dealing with this and growing with this sport.
And if you're on the wrong side of a neck breaker, there's real consequences, physical, almost dying.
So, and I always say this, like I admire people who can overcome adversity, but I think, Kat Zingano was a big one for me, like overcoming that. But man, CM Punk really is up there now with that, because he just constantly pushed down, constantly. Like, I understand, and that's not even including, we didn't touch anything based on his mom, his dad, his family, nothing.
Well, talk about his mom real quick before we move into the Untold, because that was kind of fascinating to learn.
I mean, his mom is, she was, drugs were a big thing. It comes out that she's bipolar, and she's very abusive and threatening, like, behavior towards him and siblings. And she would ask him for money, and that's his mom. He would try and support her. And it got to the point where it was too much, and he cut her off, and she got super aggressive to the point where he had to put a restraining order on his own mom, right? Like, you're not only are you having trouble professionally with your career, but like at home stuff too. He doesn't talk to his brother because his brother tried to take stuff away from him. He doesn't talk to his mom because his mom is clearly crazy in the fact that I think it's more so jealousy that he's trying to make a better path for him, and she just wants to kind of reap the benefits. So like, yeah, not only the promotion screwing him, but family screwing him too. And for him to get over that, and we're going to get into it, but fuck, man, this guy is a big deal.
Well, can I piggyback off that?
Sure.
I just want to say, you just talk about that rough start to his life. Just remember, say what you want about pro wrestling, but he literally starts out with that horrible childhood, and he literally leaves his house, goes and lives with his friends, is a total outcast, and he goes on to become the best in the world at what he does. Number one, like he was for a year, 2, 3 there, he was considered the best in the world at his job. Everybody knows who the best basketball player is, the best baseball player. They're highly respected people. A lot of them, a lot of these people didn't even have to go through anywhere near the adversity he did. Everybody knows who the best actor in the world is, right? Gets a ton of respect, okay? The highest paid actor. The irony of that is that right now the highest paid actor is The Rock.
The Rock, yeah.
Right? Who's one of the most famous men in the world right now. You should respect him for his success. He became the best at what he does, especially with what he came from. So show some respect for everybody. All people do is they go, it's pro wrestling, it's fake. It's like, don't write off the fact that he got. That's like, again, shitting on. Name whatever actor you love or your favorite stand-up comedian. It's not improv. They say that bit 10 times. 10 times in a week, whatever. It's like, yeah, but you know what? He's the best at what he does. You respect him. So just show some respect.
So I'll just give my takeaway real quick, and then we'll move into the Untold. My biggest takeaway from CM Punk's story is I knew CM Punk from the outside looking in as this guy who was a real jerk, who was hard to work with, who spoke his mind, but in sort of an abrasive, straight in your face way. And I've come away realizing that that's true to a degree, that he is kind of brash and it does speak his mind, but there's a lot of untruth around CM Punk. And that, to me, is the importance of telling this story, is not just to educate MMA fans or give wrestling fans something to listen to, but it's to really kind of disrupt the narrative that CM Punk is just this asshole, and that all he cares about is himself. It's just not true. I did see a lot of stuff about him doing a lot of charity work. There was one of the wrestlers, I can't remember his name, forgive me, wrestling fans, who was in WWE, who was struggling with drugs, was about to lose his house, and CM Punk writes a 6-figure check to him. And this is before CM Punk is the best in the world and making a lot of money. This is when CM Punk doesn't have a lot of money, and he's writing his friend a 6-figure check.
Yep.
So the guy's not strictly an asshole. Regardless of what you think, it's just not the case. And he's been crapped on a lot by a lot of people. And the fact that he's still able to push forward, do what he does, and give speeches like he did after his loss says a lot about him as a person, not just a competitor, but him as a person. So
remember that just like we said with Fedor, the winner rewrites history. He's not on TV every week right now. WWE is producing these shows. They're in a lawsuit with him over the shit he talks on Colt Cabana's podcast. They aren't very kind to him. All of the minions that they have out there, everybody producing these things about him, they don't like him. Okay? So, again, the stories you're going to hear about him aren't going to be in a positive light. Is he an abrasive dude? Yep. You know who else is? Vince McMahon, Triple H, all
Dana
of
White.
These people. Dana White. So, yeah,
I mean, look what Triple H did after CM Punk lost.
Right, exactly.
Blew
They're
up
all- they're-
Twitter with a
exactly,
photo of
exactly.
him smiling to CM Punk losing.
So,
which is so petty,
yep.
by the way.
So just to that point, it's just remember that the history you're getting, the story you're getting about him isn't totally accurate because they're the ones getting to tell it for the past 4 years.
All right, so that concludes the story of CM Punk. Now we are going into the untold story. And Tim, do you want to start us off here in the untold portion? Is there something like we're going to dig past the surface, which we've already done a little bit, but let's really get into it here. Is there something that sticks out to you?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit there with just the fact of what he comes from and where he ends up. You know, because again, you just can never belittle something like that. You know, because again, everyone writes off pro wrestling. You know, he's still the best at his job. My thing I'm the most interested in is I just think we're kind of with him. He's at another pit stop here. I think people are looking at this fight in June like he's going to lose. It's going to be an embarrassment. Blah 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 blah. What I think you need to take from CM Punk's life is his ability to constantly. He's like a chameleon. He can always change, evolve. You know, he fits in. It's funny because he can't fit in. He always wants to fit in and he can't. But he always finds a way to make it work. And ultimately, he's going to get his little 2 pay-per-view fights here, and it's going to be great. But what's kind of looming here is his gigantic impact on pro wrestling. Like, we didn't really touch on it, but when he walks out, there's like a revolt. He basically causes a revolt in wrestling. They can't do a single show without CM Punk chants. The shows literally get hijacked. And they have to rewrite
That's awesome.
WrestleMania 30 because of it. And whether it's in spite of him or not, they put Daniel Bryan basically in the spot he always wanted, and they let Daniel Bryan win. They rewrite it in the weeks leading up to it and let him win 2 fights and win the main event of WrestleMania. So CM Punk's departure actually caused a huge shift in the entire philosophy. Now they bring in independent guys. You know, they changed the way they do business, and now what's coming is his imminent return to the independent scene, which I think is a no-brainer.
So talk a little bit more about that, because I've been hearing rumblings that maybe if he loses his next fight in the UFC, that he's going to go back to wrestling.
His love seems to have always been ROH and the independent companies, and he's, you know, again, always had the desire. I think you can even hear him when he talks to Colt Cabana those were the best days, and you know he's always looked back on that.
Yeah,
finally.
he talked about like pissing in a bucket, and that was the best times.
I think there's like the independent WrestleMania coming up in Chicago. It's called All In, and I think all the chips are aligning. He's doing a signing there at the store, Colt Cabana's like store, isn't it? Or yeah, it is Colt Cabana, I believe. I believe he's affiliated with it. But anyways, at his store, the day before, it sold out in like a minute or something insane. And he's mysteriously going to be around for that. He was backstage at the press conference, and all signs are pointing to him possibly appearing. And if he does, that's where he totally fits in for now.
You know, it's crazy that, you know, he's looking to go back into wrestling, but not the top dog. I understand they don't like him, WWE, whatnot. But have you ever heard of Busted Open, like the radio show XM?
Yeah.
All they talk about is Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the thing.
It's huge.
Well, he's got an ability to stay relevant, and that's kind of the thing right now. Is the trendy thing in wrestling is these independent guys. And
Do you think CM Punk could make Ring of Honor, like, obviously not bigger than the WWE, but do you think like that's something that, you know, it'd
Not
be like
by himself? I don't think.
Well, you have to remember
it'd be another start of something new?
people
like,
keep saying that. People keep going. Can an independent company rise up to like the WWE's level? kind of like in a Bellator match to UFC.
Is that the start of it though?
Well, they literally said, well, as everyone says, hey, the Bullet Club is the biggest thing right now, and so like I believe it was Dave Meltzer or somebody, I don't remember who it was, to be honest with you, but somebody's like, yeah, but they couldn't sell out 10,000 seats. They couldn't sell it, and they did in 30 minutes in Chicago. They did it. They said, fine, we'll fucking do it. So 3 people, Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, decided to sell out a 10,000 seat arena themselves, and this is the event CM Punk is rumored to show up at. And so the idea is they're gaining all this momentum. Well, what if you inject CM Punk into that mix? What happens
with
then?
the Bullet Club?
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of a right now that's a little bit jumbled. There's already 2 guys kind of vying for the leadership there.
Okay.
So that would be a little strange, but I know what you mean. If he's around the
yes,
Bullet Club, good
around
idea.
it.
Maybe feuding with them just in general. Sure. But yeah, he's kind of the thing that would take it to the next level, maybe. So his story in wrestling is not done at all. I think he's going to have an independent run, and then he's going to end up back in WWE again.
So let's transition a little bit from wrestling to the UFC. There's been a ton of hate sent CM Punk's way, and a lot of people talking a lot of shit, for lack of a better word, about CM Punk and about his desire to be in the UFC, saying that he's taking someone else's spot, saying that he doesn't belong. I mean, everyone from your casual fan to Joe Rogan on one of his latest podcasts. And we're going to talk about this more in next week's episode, but let's just touch on it a little bit here. Why has there been so much hate? And is it valid? Is it fair for him to get so much hate? Is he really stealing someone else's spot? What do you make of this? Because it seems like when he was in WWE, Vince really couldn't grasp. He was trying to sell Vince on ideas that were going to make Vince McMahon money, that were going to make the company money. And it seems like he comes over to the UFC and people are trying to press him down. But if you're an MMA fan, if you're a fan of the sport, how could you want anything but see him? Whose spot is he taking? Some guy way down on the Facebook cards. Sorry to that guy, but CM Punk is going to put butts in seats, and he's going to bring attention to the sport.
That's the key. That's the key here is, hey, guys, they have a budget. This isn't the Fertitas anymore. This isn't some small group of like a mom and pop shop. This is literally a gigantic company that they have a bottom line, they have budgets, and you want CM Punk around to sell fucking pay-per-views. You should be rooting your ass off for him to win so he fights a third time to sell more pay-per-views to raise that revenue number. You want to raise the revenue number so that the budget can get increased, so the expenditures can go up, and so can fighter salaries. If your favorite fighter maybe isn't on this main card, he might get to be on another one later because there's more money for him in the budget. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
why would you ever
effect.
root against a draw?
And guess what? He may take one fighter spot on one card, but that revenue generated could produce more shows, more whatever, to get the next guy or the next 10 guys a shot.
Exactly.
You know, we've got the fans have a very mirrored way of thinking that Dana White or that the current UFC brass has, and it's this very narrow-minded, what's going on right this second. There's no planning for the future. There's no seeing the domino effect or the trickle-down effect. It's just all I can see in front of me is CM Punk doesn't belong and CM Punk's taking someone's spot. I can't see that CM Punk's going to generate revenue, that it's going to have a trickle-down effect, and that maybe 10 more guys in the future get to fight because of this.
And I challenge fight fans to name who was opening cards a year ago. Who opened the Stipe Overeem card that Punk was even on? I don't know who opened those cards.
Couldn't tell you.
Don't know, but you're going to know that CM Punk is on this card. There's going to be a ton of people that order this just for him. So yeah, is he taking somebody's spot? Sure, but you don't even remember who that is. So you don't care that much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You,
Are you
you
that
like
indignant?
to act like you do,
right.
But you don't. So.
Yeah, but here's where we've maybe touched on it before, but what about Andre Arlovski? Whose spot is he taking? Like, why do people, that is the fight you need to be like, what the fuck? Not CM Punk is from here, was the best wrestler in the world at a period of time for a significant amount of time, and can make waves wherever. So from his hometown, guess what? I can guarantee you that. Actually, I will say 60%. That's a high number. I'll go 45. 45% of the people there are there for CM Punk.
I don't know. That's an interesting debate.
I don't know, man.
There, I don't know.
In Chicago,
Watching in
supporting it,
general, I would say there's going to be
Yes,
a
a
larger
ton
number
ordering
watching
it.
in general. Yes,
I just
ordering
think
the
it's
pay-per-view.
it's a great card to be a part of, right? So maybe that is a wrong number, but watching in general, like
be a ton of
they're
people going to
there,
bars to
or,
see him, you
or
know.
CM Punk is gonna be the show. You're there to see it. If he wins, that place is going to erupt, and it's gonna talk about spinning shit on its head. There's UFC spun on its head right there. It's just gonna, like you said, it's gonna create more things for this UFC that we want to last. That has been on a ship that has been sinking for a while.
And there's going to be these same fans that are sitting there at the bar telling their buddies how ridiculous this is, that CM Punk is in the UFC, that this is bullshit. But these are the same guys then. So what, if you work in a cubicle or you work wherever, if you have a construction job, are you not allowed to switch it up at age 38 then and go to a different job where you have no training? Because that's highly offensive. If you are a really witty person and you're working in construction, but you've never done stand-up, and the Laugh Factory gives you a chance and says, you know what, I was, whatever, you were working on a building and I heard you're funny, 5 minutes, go for it. Do you not get that chance?
Are
then?
you alluding to Brendan Schaub?
Exactly.
Or being
But
a fighter.
Having no
so then
previous background?
does that construction worker have to say no to that opportunity because he doesn't have proper training?
Of course he doesn't. And here's the problem with it. He does have training. He has now, to this date and time, 4 years of martial arts training with Duke Rufus.
Under one of the greatest coaches.
So now, let me ask you, how many years of wrestling training does Ronda Rousey have? How many years of stand-up training, doing road shows, does Brendan Schaub have? How many years of MMA experience did John Jones have before he came to the UFC? If you're a newer fan, look that shit up because it wasn't long. John Jones, now I get it. We're talking about a athletic, genetic unicorn and somebody with lead in his ass. I get the comparison here. I understand. Oh, you like the unicorn, the white horn?
Yeah.
That's a Lupe reference, actually.
Let's go.
Anyway, why after 4 years does he not deserve to fight Mike Jackson?
You know what fixes that though? Him winning. Because it just kind of hold on.
Don't make excuses,
That's a
though.
good.
Hold on.
I don't know if it does.
This is why I think it, because you brought up Ronda Rousey. Everyone was shitting on Ronda Rousey being in WrestleMania and whatnot. She has a good match, and now she's accepted by everybody.
Different fan base.
More brutal.
Absolutely.
Well, and they weren't shitting on Ronda until she was laying eggs on Raw, and everyone's like, this is dog shit. And then, obviously, she delivered at WrestleMania. At first, they were giving her every chance in the world.
And people were shitting on CM Punk before he stepped in. He loses. They shit on him more. He steps in against Mike Jackson and wins. All they're going to say is,
That's
Mike Jackson.
So
what? If he fights GSP, he'll get his ass kicked.
Yep.
Of course he will.
Yeah, no shit.
He's not trying to get to the top of the mountain right now. Also, something that I want people to think about here is CM Punk's age. And if CM Punk had grown up,
absolutely.
CM Punk is around our age, Tim, a little bit older than us. If CM Punk had grown up in the 90s or the 2000s, he might have gone to MMA instead of WWE. And with the work ethic the guy has, the intensity, the focus, I think he could have been someone in mixed martial arts.
That's the thing. All these analysts, the same ones that are shitting on him, like Joe Rogan, who we love, but it's just unfair. They'll tell you, hey, Verdum and Maya, maybe they can't strike right now, but they're going to use that same brilliance that they have to learn jiu-jitsu, and they're going to use that to learn striking very quickly. Well, CM Punk became the best at his job in the world. Why can't he, in 4 years, learn how to at least become a competent fighter? Why doesn't he deserve that chance? He doesn't even belong on Contender Series? Bullshit.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? That's all I'm saying. So just, again, that analyst, give him the shot. There's a chance he picks it up, too.
That's what the Contender Series is all about, though. it's creating the fighters. Why isn't he allowed on that show?
I don't know why. I don't know.
And why? I'm sorry. I know like Rogan works for UFC at times, whatever, and he promotes fights, whatever. But why are you shitting on him when he's gonna be on a great card of the greatest, probably one of the best cards of the year, and maybe one of the biggest draws of the year? Like,
because like you said, if he does anything, it's the big story coming out of that. If CM Punk wins his fight, it's the biggest story coming out of UFC 225.
Doesn't matter what Yoel does. Doesn't matter what Megan
It's the
Anderson or
story.
Holly Holm
100%.
does. Doesn't matter.
It's the number one story.
100%. Now, there is one thing I will say that's not even a negative, just what if CM Punk doesn't give a shit what I have to say, but if I was in CM Punk's camp, one thing I would have told him is he should have taken a fight right after his loss. That, my personal opinion, is these 2-year layoffs, 2 years of training before you step in, great, get your foundation. But now 2 years out of the ring, it's almost like you're hitting the reset button again. Whereas I think if he got in there, got more comfortable in the real combat situations, it would be better for him. Also, there wouldn't be such a spotlight on him if this was his 3rd or 4th fight. I understand why he's doing it. I understand why the UFC is doing it. I just would like to see him at his age, since he is really considering this a career, doing it more than once every 2 years.
I understand exactly what you're saying. The only reason I disagree is I think there might have been such a big skill gap that he might have realized at the time he needed a lot of time to train. That being said, again, apples to oranges, I know, but the first time Mackenzie Dern fought in the UFC, it was very clear she had some deficiencies, and she went right back out there, and they matched her up with somebody she could actually beat. So maybe with the right opponent, if they had found him some regional guy, make it a freak show fight. Who cares? Pride got to do it, and everybody loved Pride. Fucking give him some rando.
Or he could have gone and fought on a lesser kind of developmental kind of thing, fought a couple of times, and then could still be on this same card, but with a couple fights under his belt.
Yeah.
I think it would have benefited him more. Now, let me ask you this. 2 things. Do you, Zach or Tim, do you think he will continue to compete in MMA if he wins? Do you think he'll continue if he loses? And Tim, this is more for you. Do you think he'll bury the hatchet with Vince, and do you think they'll let him in the WWE Hall of Fame?
So I think if he wins, I think he's going to be like, I did it. Like, I came here, I did what I wanted to do, and, I have other things I want to do, and I think he might go the wrestling route again. If he loses, I think he goes the wrestling route either way.
Really? So you don't think he'll fight in the UFC again?
No, I don't think so. I don't, not maybe by his choice.
Well, he does everything by his choice.
I understand that, but the UFC, they can't give that up.
I'm going to interject something really quick here because I forgot to mention this too. Don't miss the fact that CM Punk came over from wrestling to the UFC to get punched in the face when he does not need the money. He does not need the celebrity. He doesn't need any of it. He literally raised his hand and volunteered to get the shit beat out of him on national television.
All because he wanted to challenge.
And he's going to do it again. So if he goes back to wrestling, it's not going to be for the money. If he stays in the UFC, it's not going to be for the money. He's just going to go where he wants to go. That's what CM Punk's done his whole life. Has done what he wants. Even if I grew up in a home like he grew up in, I don't know if I could have just left my house, ditched my parents, and gone to live with a friend. Like, even from a very young age, he was making really tough decisions. So I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
I think you're spot on. He's always looking for a challenge, and no matter what, after this fight, mission accomplished. He either gets his win, or he loses again, and it's like, you know what, I tried. And he's not going to put them in a weird spot where they have to cut him. He's just going to leave. The next challenge for him is Ring of Honor, New Japan. I think he's going to want to see if he can become the face of the company that produces the next true competition. Because if Vince won't let you be his WrestleMania event, fuck him, make your own WrestleMania. And I think he's going to try that. And if that works, whether he'll try, and then maybe eventually he does return and get his WrestleMania main event. I don't know. Will he be a Hall of Famer? Absolutely.
So you still think that's his goal? Is still the WrestleMania main event?
I believe it is, but I also think that if he can be his own, if they can take Ring of Honor to New Japan to like the next level, I think that would be more gratifying for him at this point because he is so pissed off. But time heals all wounds, and money talks. If he starts a family with AJ Lee, if they at some point if they back up the Brinks truck to his house, it's like he might return.
Sir, it's AJ Brooks now.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
To the Hall of Fame. Is it the WWE Hall of Fame that we're asking, or is it just Wrestling Hall of Fame, like in general?
Well, WWE.
So you think they'll induct him no matter
He'll
what?
come back. They all come back eventually. Like Bret Hart came back. They all.
So I thought before I knew the whole feud, I was like, oh, he's for sure. I don't care what anyone says, he'll be in it. But after the feud, I don't know if Vince McMahon will fucking let go of pride or whatever it is that his ego.
Money talks though with Vince. It's all about money. And CM Punk will be a huge draw.
Yeah, but do you think at this point, I know Vince is still at the head, but with Triple H running the show, Triple H has more of a maybe personal vendetta against him. Maybe he doesn't ever let him back.
He's more forgiving though. Like
Is
the track record is insane. I mean, he's actually been the one bridging the gap to get people like Bruno Sammartino like back in the mix and stuff before he passed away. So he's been helping out get these people around. So I think he would help bridge the gap to get Punk around, but I think that could be years away.
All right. Do we have anything else, or can we wrap it up there?
Great story.
Just we'll be the drunk ones starting CM Punk chants at UFC 225.
Definitely
you
will
know what?
be.
I'm all in.
Yep. There you
in.
go.
Might do a pipe bomb. Is there such thing as a shot called a pipe bomb?
Well, we can make one.
We might need to make
how
one.
About we don't talk about bombs in the United States?
No, we're not going to talk about it at the event. We're just going to hit a couple pipe bombs before we go.
Oh,
There we go.
Okay,
done.
fair.
Train ride sounds like
Done. All right. Well, that concludes the untold story and story of CM Punk. So be on the lookout. Like I said, next week we're going to take a deeper look into some of the different avenues of CM Punk and some of the things people are saying. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and tell a friend about the podcast. Also, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/MMA Untold and subscribe to receive future bonus content, t-shirts, and more. Two men fighting inside a steel cage isn't for everyone, but stories like CM Punk's are. This is MMA Untold, and if you don't know, now you know.